What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and this video is gonna have spoilers, FYI. So, first things first, my bad about the thumbnail for last week's video. I didn't even put two and two together, and in all honesty, the significance of Cad Bane had largely been lost on me because I never really watched Clone Wars or even Star Wars Rebels. I'm an episode 4, 5, and 6 guy, right? I mean, I saw the first 3 movies, and I was like, I mean, okay, like, they're okay, but like, they don't have nearly the gravitas or the development or just the downright just greatness of, like, you know, episodes 4, 5, and 6. Yes, I'm in that crowd. I will not apologize, right? I will die on this mountain. Like, there's no way you're ever gonna get me to come off of this thing. But having said that, yeah, so that's my mistake with that thumbnail. I usually try to avoid spoilers in thumbnails if I can. So yeah, that's my mistake. Many apologies. But let's talk about Boba Fett, right? So here's the thing, right? The opening scene, like when they're all talking about where they're gonna fight and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's cool, I guess. I mean, I feel like Boba Fett was kind of an idiot for even entertaining the idea of like going back to like the palace and fighting there, when it's obvious that if he did, the people in that town would lose faith in him. Everything else about the episode was phenomenal. Now, here's one thing that I wasn't the biggest fan of, right? One thing that I wasn't the biggest fan of was Cad Bane showing up there just at all, right? And even telling Boba Fett, like, I killed the marshal and there's no reinforcements coming or anything like that. I understand why they did that in order to basically set up like a conflict where Boba Fett could like get his revenge on Cad Bane. Like, I understand that and that's cool and everything. But I think it would have just been a lot more riveting and a lot more interesting if, like, we as the audience, even kind of being left on a cliffhanger to a degree regarding the reinforcements at the end of the last episode, of whether or not they will actually show up. We kind of knew they were going to, right? Just the look on the dude's face, the idea that, like, usually when it comes to somebody doing what Cad Bane and the Syndicate did, right, by taking out the Marshal, all they did was like give the townspeople of Freetown more motivation to show up and actually fight alongside Boba Fett, where previously they weren't even 100% sure that they were going to do it. But barring that, Boba Fett and like the Mandalorian and all them were banking on the reinforcements showing up. So the benefit of Cad Bane not being there and not telling them that wouldn't necessarily be for Boba Fett and them, it would be for us. Because while Boba Fett and them were like, yeah man, reinforcements are coming, we're just kind of like, I mean, are they though? Because, like, you know, Cad Bane killed the Marshal. It would have been a lot more riveting and a lot more exciting. That being said, everything else, it was great, right? I love the way everything unfolded in this episode, right? So going into this idea, and we can let's just call them the heads of the 5 families, right? Just go full Godfather here. The idea that they had all basically turned against Boba Fett and sided with the Syndicate, again, like it was pointed out by the Mandalorian, it was a smart move to do that, right? It was the smart call to do that. And I loved that, right? I love that whole exchange, that idea that like basically all these different groups are turning against him. More so than that, using guerrilla warfare tactics, that's genius, right? The idea that like, it's not people who are going out there in like obvious uniforms because they represent these different families and, you know, it's easy to point them out from other people, but the fact that they're basically just townspeople who reach into a basket and pull out a repeater and just start shooting at them, right? It was cool to see that whole thing go down. This was even more significant by the fact that like literally everybody was just boxed in different locations, right? They were basically trapped in different locations. And for a moment, it was like, are any of them going to be saved? Now, here's one of the things that was kind of disappointing, not in the sense that it took away from the show, but in the sense that it's something that I really wanted to see happen, and it didn't. The moment between Boba Fett and the Mandalorian. And I can't be the only one who wanted to hear this, right? But like that moment, like we know Boba Fett doesn't really buy into like the whole Mandalorian creed and all that kind of stuff. He considers it to just be sort of nonsense, essentially. But like the Mandalorian believes in that stuff. And the Mandalorian, when him and Boba Fett are having that discussion, and Boba Fett's like, I mean, like, are you gonna stay here and fight? The Mandalorian's like, yeah, like I'm gonna stay here, I'm gonna fight alongside you because like it's the right thing to do, basically, you know. And so like the Mandalorian was like, this is the way. I was so hoping Boba Fett would say, this is the way. Not because he actually believes it, but like as a sign of respect to the Mandalorian for staying there and fighting alongside him. It would have been great, right? If Mandalorian had been like, this is the way, and Boba Fett's like, this is the way. And like that would have been it, right? It doesn't mean like he's fully adopting the Mandalorian philosophies anymore, but like what it does mean is he's like, I respect you, right? Like I'm respecting the fact that you're here, and I'm honoring your creed by saying like, this is the way, right? You know, I'm honoring this level of respect. Having said that, what we lacked in that we got in like the two of them fighting together. Let me tell you something, man. That was some straight up Goku and Vegeta. It was legit. Seeing these two guys fighting alongside each other, right? Like just shooting up into the air like their rocket packs and everything. It was cool. That was really, really amazing. And I loved it. What I also loved too, and this is something that I feel like has been pretty consistent with Ming-Na Wen, really ever since the movie Push, which if you never saw Push, it was a great movie, right? Chris Evans and Dakota Fanning, I think, Ming-Na Wen, and it had a lot of like great cast members, right? Dakota Johnson, I think, was in it. It was a phenomenal film. Really, really underrated. But like since that movie and like going into like especially Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and so on, she's always just kind of been the badass. And I love that she's the one that just saves everybody's ass, like all the people who were all basically pinned down, like she saves them, essentially rescues them and gets them out. It's cool. Like that was a really, really cool moment there. But like literally for the most part, the idea that like it's just kind of this ongoing conflict, right? The giant battle droids with the shields and so on and so forth, that largely went the way that I expected it to, right? I mean, it's just literally them just kind of fleeing for their lives to a degree and like fighting where they can, when they can, and holding them off. The cool thing was like when Boba Fett took off and he's like, I gotta find reinforcements, I was like, okay, is he gonna go to like Mos Eisley? Because there's no way he's gonna make it there and back in time. Like that's not gonna happen. Like where the hell is he going? I never saw the Rancor coming. And in fact, I forgot about it. I can't be the only one, but I forgot about the Rancor by the time like we got to this episode, and that was cool, right? Boba Fett just like riding into the battlefield on a Rancor and like just crushing these battle droids. That was great, right? Obviously a little bit of help, a little bit of assistance there from the Mandalorian with the Darksaber, but nonetheless, I thought that was great. That was phenomenal. And one of the things that I really loved about this whole thing, and this was especially prevalent with like the return of Grogu, was the fact that like all eyes were on Boba Fett and his supporting cast, right? Again, this is really important with Grogu. And the reason why is because it would have been very, very easy for them to write this episode in such a way where like everyone's boxed in and like no one really has a chance. And then here comes Grogu with like his force powers and let the conflict end, right? Force crush everything. Like it would have been very easy for them to write that, to write that set of events playing out. They didn't though. I mean, there's obviously a couple reasons for this, right? Grogu's training is just painfully incomplete, that Grogu chose the Mandalorian over the path of the Jedi, and like, that's why he's there. I mean, you know, there's obvious reasons why that wasn't the case, but more so than that, had they done that, right? Had they had Grogu show up with just like godly force powers and just like defeating everything in sight, it would have taken all the emphasis away from the capabilities of Boba Fett and the supporting cast and all those guys, and it largely would have made them look inept, right? And so the fact that they didn't do that was just a stroke of genius, right? I mean, Grogu did a little bit, right? He ripped a bolt out of the knee of the battle droid. So like that was cool, right? He basically like he kicked him in the knee, right? He swept the leg. For all you Karate Kid fans, you know, it was cool to see him do that. But by and large, he was just kind of offering assistance here and there. And so ultimately, again, you know, the whole thing going on, you know, the conflict playing out and so on and so forth, the Rancor going mad, that was cool. And then I will say what was also really cool was basically Grogu like bringing the Rancor down, right? That was pretty cool. And okay, here's the thing. I'm not even gonna lie here, right? Like when Grogu brought down the Rancor, it was. Hey, big guy, the sun's getting real low. It was like that kind of a thing. But like, it also just kind of occurred to me, I kind of want to see like a Grogu and Rancor adventures show, right? Who knows what adventures they'll get into? Grogu and Rancor invite you, right? The Adventures of Grogu and Rancor. I would love to see that show. I'm not even gonna lie. I would love to see that show. Just like a Grogu and Rancor buddy cop movie, like Han Solo and Chewbacca. Like, I would want to see that, right? I think that would be like really, really amazing. But all in all, you know, everything taken into account, especially like Fennec was like, she basically pulled like a Michael Corleone at the end of the movie, right? You guys remember in Godfather when Michael Corleone was talking to his brother-in-law, right? The one who was beating on his sister, and was like, today I settle all family business, right? He took out like Mo Green and like Strachey and like Bozzini and all those guys, right? Took out everybody in the whole family. That's kind of what happened here, right? Fennec shows up and basically kills everybody, right? Like everybody dies. The mayor dies, the heads of the 5 families die, like the head of the syndicate, at least seemingly in Mos Eisley, he's dead, right? Like all those guys are taken out. So like seemingly Tatooine is like a place free from the influence of the syndicate. How long that'll go on for, I don't really know, because we don't even know if the syndicate is working alongside any other like bigger organizations, like organized crime organizations, because one of the things you guys probably know from just being aware of Star Wars is everything feeds everything else. So like if the syndicate disappears, a lot of people are gonna lose money. And if those people are losing money, they're gonna wanna know why. And they're gonna show up on Tatooine. So it kind of gives you the ability to sort of see these sort of continuing conflicts taking place on the planet in the aftermath of the syndicate being ousted. That was pretty cool. But as far as the ending goes, and this is what's the most intriguing about me, obviously they can take it a couple different ways, right? If they were to say, for example, that like the Mandalorian took Baby Yoda and the two of them just rode off into the sunset, that answers the question why it is that Grogu was not present when the Knights of Ren basically massacred everybody and then took off, right? At the same time though, it also kind of makes sense that the ending would be the Mandalorian taking Grogu to Luke Skywalker. And he would basically do it from a place that's not necessarily doing it begrudgingly and from an emotional place like he was at the end of Mandalorian season 2, where he's like, I mean, you're supposed to go, Grogu, teardrops. I really don't want to see you leave. It's not really anything like that, where at this point, it's just kind of like a resolute thing, right? Like, you really do belong with those people, right? You belong with the Jedi. You need to go train with Luke Skywalker. I know you don't want to leave me, and I will cherish our memories forever, but like, this is where you belong, right? This is who you're supposed to be with. I'm not really sure which way it goes. And honestly, I'm gonna leave it to you guys, right? Which direction do you guys think they're going with this ending? Do you think Mandalorian is taking Grogu back to Luke Skywalker? Or do you think it's just Mandalorian and Grogu riding off into the sunset and they're basically gonna be there in Mandalorian season 3? Let me know which one you guys think it's gonna be. And also, let me know what you guys thought about the series down in the comments section. But thank you all for watching, and I will catch you all later. Peace.